Welcome back. We are now going to start with the principles of effective speaking. We've seen what are the basic requirements and purpose of speech. We've seen how thinking influences our speech. Now we are going to look at effective speaking. How can we be effective speakers? You see, all of us are talkers, but very few of us actually become good speakers. And there must be some reason for that. And so we are going to look at these things step by step. First thing is that what are we speaking is very important. Okay, content, like I said, is the king, so we have to concentrate on the content. Every speech should have a structure. So there is the introduction. Introduction sets the tone of your speech. Without an introduction, your speech would look like coming out of the blue. It could be unintelligible to your audiences. So set the tone with maybe a rhetorical question, an anecdote, or something which you want to attract your audience towards you, something interesting, something catchy that you bring to your speech. You begin with that. Then the linkages. Now, in most of the texts, if you've read about public speaking and speaking effectively, you will find that linkages are not mentioned. You see, just as in writing, after one para to the next para, you have a linkage. You try to draw a linkage between the two. In speaking also, these linkages are important. These linkages, for instance, you might have seen that I keep referring, like I said, and so these are the linkages that I draw to what I said previously to what I'm going to say next, and how these two things are connected and how all of them are connected. Actually, it's like a chain, and that's why these linkages are very, very important. Okay, a sentence or two that connect the introduction with the body of the presentation. Then the body or the details of your speech, which would be the proper text. It would be the data or the matter that you want to convey. So that forms the main body of the text. So provide all the details that are the main thrust of your presentation. And then the conclusion. Just as the introduction has to be interesting, the conclusion also has to be interesting, and it should leave the audience wanting for more, or it should leave them thinking about it. They should go back home and they should think about your speech. The conclusion should be so strong. Okay? The last line of a good presentation should leave a lasting impression on the people's minds. What are the things that influence speech? First is words. The words that you use, the words that are part of your vocabulary. Now, what happens is that when we are speaking, we might, when we write actually, we might use very tough, long words, okay? But when we are speaking, those tough, long words may not roll off our tongue that easily. So first thing is, only use the words that you know very well, the words that you can pronounce very well. If you have some strange new word in your speech, which might cause you to either stutter or stammer in front of your audience, is not the right thing to do while making a public speech. So words are a very big influence to what you are saying. Circumstances, this was mentioned in the last session also. Circumstances decide how you are going to be speaking, So you need to create that kind of environment for yourself within and outside where your speech is most effective. For instance, if I have to use this lectern, I have to make this lectern the most comforting thing for myself for as long as I'm speaking. This is my home. Okay, and once I am here, I should be comfortable. Whatever is your area, you have a desk, you have a table, you have a chair, whatever you have, all these props are for your use to make yourself most comfortable when you are speaking. So create that kind of circumstance, create that kind of ambience for yourself. Emotional state. Now, you cannot make a speech when you are emotional, because emotions themselves are very strong communicators. So if you are too happy or if you are too sad, then you are not able to make a logical presentation. So one has to be very sure about the emotional state. So nervousness is one such state which all of us face when we are standing here. Little bit of nervousness is all right. So nobody can be totally devoid of nervousness. But to be able to control that and not let it translate to what you are saying. It should not be visible. There are many things that you can do. For instance, using the hands, is one of the things that can be done for effective speaking. I'll talk about it later. Familiarity with content and expertise in discussion. These are two very important things. You cannot be all style and no substance. You cannot just have the best body language, most well-dressed person, and the best accent and pronunciation, and not have matter to convey. So it becomes very important to be familiar with what you are saying and to be able to participate in discussion, because like I said, speaking is not just about saying something. It is one-sided, yes, but then there is a receiver at the end of it who might have questions, and so you should be prepared to participate. You should be prepared to participate in a discussion with them. Good listening skill. You see, how do we learn to speak? We learn to speak through listening, and listening is a part of speaking. And those who do not listen well cannot speak well. So one of the first things that we need to train ourselves is to start listening, not just hearing. Now there is a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is, if you pay a little bit of attention, you can hear the fan in your room, you can hear the car go by, you can hear all those things. Those are hearing. But when you start listening, you can see a pattern in the sound of the fan also. And that is listening, hearing by using your brain, not just your ears. So listening skills are very, very important. So is silence. We think that speaking requires only speech. Speaking requires pauses also. A good speech necessarily has the best pauses. Whenever you pause, make certain that the pause is effective. When we are talking, when we are speaking, the receiver needs some time to understand what you're saying. You need some time to breathe a little bit. You need some time to change the topic from one to next. Pause can be a very good linkage also. Pause is something that you need to practice a lot to be a good speaker. For instance, when you are thinking of a new point, instead of verbalizing your thought, I've seen many people who use verbal cues such as ha. They keep doing that. Instead of that, use a pause. It looks graceful, it is effective, and of course you are thinking, so that's good. Your audience will know that you are thinking. So it's not a bad thing to think and speak. It's the best thing to do. So think and pause. Because when we are writing, see, we have commas and we have full stops. What do they mean? Comma is a short pause. Full stop is a long pause. So when we are speaking, our speech should show that at this point, there is a short pause. And at this point, there is a long pause. Did you notice my pauses? Paralanguage. Paralanguage is that which comes along with speech. Speech cannot be monotonous. I cannot just keep talking to you in one straight line without any emotional input into it. Would you like this kind of speech? It doesn't happen. It doesn't work. The best speech is when your entire body is involved in speaking. All of you are involved in speaking. The entire personality is involved in speaking. That's the most effective speech. So paralanguage is one such thing. I'll give you an example and you will know. A student is late, because I'm a teacher, I take out examples from the class. A student is late for class, and I ask him this question. There is just one question I'm asking, okay? Why are you late? This is the question. And what I'm now going to put into this question is paralanguage, and you will immediately know what I mean, right? So, why are you late? And the response will be, ma'am, there was a lot of traffic and I got stuck. So the student will try to justify his late entry into the class. Second example, why are you late? I'm sorry, ma'am. Now he'll think, oh my God, she's a little bit angry. Let me not say much. And he will just say sorry. Why are you late? Now what am I adding into my tone? I'm just changing the intonation and the volume of my speech I'm using the same sentence. In the third instance, the student will stutter and take a few steps back and just stand quietly. Why are you late? And the student walks out. At this stage, the student decides that I'm not going to enter this lady's class because she's mad. She's so angry that she's mad. You see, just one sentence and 4 different types of responses you have elicited through this one sentence. That's how careful we have to be when we are adding intonation. And without intonation, we cannot have speech. Okay? It would be monotonous and boring. Articulation and pronunciation. I'm going to do a little bit about this in the next slide. I'm going to explain what these 2 terms mean. Pronunciation. The act or result of producing the sounds of speech, including articulation, stress and intonation, often with reference to some standard of correctness or acceptability. So many times we may want to be good speakers, but we are not accepted into the area of speaking or, as a good speaker because we may not be pronouncing our words well. You see, whichever language you speak, I'm not saying it's only about English. If you speak Hindi, Punjabi, Kannada, Tamil, whichever language you're speaking, you should be able to pronounce your words properly. That's very important in speech. Articulation. The adjustment and movement of speech organs involved in pronouncing a particular sound taken as a whole make sure that the tongue is kept forward. When we articulate, we need to have our tongue right in front, next to the teeth. The farther the tongue is, the better we are able to articulate. I'm going to take you through the articulators now. Okay, before that, Hindi. Hindi is a phonetic language. You see, what happens is people who want to learn articulation and pronunciation, they actually go and learn a brand new language called phonetics. Okay? Phonetics is a language of sound through which you understand to read sounds. It has a transcript through which you can read sounds. Okay? It can be applied to any language in the world. If you know phonetics, you can apply it to any language and pronounce the words clearly. All right. Having said that, we have within us in India, we have our own language, which is Hindi. And Hindi, thankfully, is a phonetic language. And these are the alphabets, as you can see. I'm going to just elaborate on this now. Let us understand the articulators in Hindi, because it's a phonetic language. Now, why am I saying this in speech is because so many times when we are speaking, we don't know the pronunciation. And because we don't know the pronunciation, we speak wrongly. We speak wrongly and we are not appreciated. So if you just understand the phonetics of Hindi, you are able to write that in Hindi and pronounce it. It will be correct, I assure you. You see this. We have ka, kha, ga, gha. These are called as kanthavya. Kanthavya is from the glottis. They are coming right from here. That's the phonetic aspect of our language. Cha, cha, ja, jha. They are called talavya. You see, I'm moving from the throat to the lips. I'm moving forward in that manner, okay? So, kanthavya coming from the throat, moving forward, talavya or talu, as in Hindi we say. All of them, just try to pronounce it. Cha, cha, ja, jha. The tongue and the hard palate in contact in similar manner. You don't know how magically we produce 4 different sounds by doing that. You have ta, tha, da, dha when the tongue is hitting the hard palate, which is right behind your teeth. When the tongue hits it, pointed tongue hits it, these are called as murdhanya. In Hindi, that area is called murdha. So you have ta, tha, da, dha. Have you noticed? I'm moving from the throat to the hard palate and the teeth now. Dantiya, ta, tha, da, dha. All the letters are pronounced with the tongue hitting the teeth. Ta, tha, da, dha. So coming from ka, kha, ga, gha, glottis, to cha, cha, ja, ja, scratching the surface of the hard palate, ta, tha, da, dha, pointedly hitting the palate. Ta, tha, da, dha, dantiya, with the tongue hitting the teeth. You have oshte, where tongue and palates don't do anything. It's the lips, the two lips. Pa, pha, ba, bha, ma. Okay, and you know the a, are vowels, so they have no obstruction. They come straight from your throat. The tongue and other things are not used. U, A, I. You see, or in English, A, E, I, O, U. You can use this entire formula for English, for any other language. You will be able to pronounce properly because you know from where the sound is coming. That's very important. And that's where we go wrong most of the time. We confuse between sh and sa. We confuse between pa, ba and va. And because of these confusions, we are not able to pronounce properly. Other pronunciation problems could be spelling. Now, this again, because in English, you need a whole new language to learn the sound. You need a language to learn the script. Script is not related with sound. And because the spellings are complicated, most new learners are not able to pronounce the English words properly. So spelling could be one thing. And fortunately in Hindi, because it is phonetic, the way you write is the way you speak. So even if you write your English words in Hindi, you will be able to speak, because of our phonetic language. Mother tongue interference. All speech have mother tongue interference. It would be unwise and impractical of me to say that we can get rid of the mother tongue interference. That we are not going to have it if we learn phonetics, or if you get trained in public speaking. That's not true at all. We will have some trace of mother tongue, okay? And when you have that trace of mother tongue, just take that as a blessing of the mother. It's okay. It's okay to have a little bit of mother tongue interference. We just cannot eradicate it totally. Okay? So don't be embarrassed about mother tongue influence in your English or Hindi or any other language which you're trying to learn. Weak and strong sounds. When we don't know which sound we need to stress on or which sound we need to not stress. For instance, in CAR, how much of R should we pronounce? We can just say car, we can say car, we can say car. So it really, you need to learn those things in order to be able to pronounce properly. Again, stress, intonation, I already explained. So what do we do about effective speaking? First is we remove verbal pauses. I spoke about verbal pauses, thinking pauses. So we remove that. We use silent pauses instead of that. We expand our vocabulary. We manage our life with just very few words. And we keep on repeating those words in our speech. So the dress is nice, the weather is nice, the food is nice, everything is nice. It would be nice if we had some other word other than nice. Okay? So we have to really expand our vocabulary. We should learn to use silence to our benefit, how much silence we can use, and we should shun slangs. Slang in a language is not universally understood. You see, slangs differ from generation to generation. My generation had some other slang. My student's generation has another slang. So when we are talking to each other, why should we be alienated from each other just because of our slangs? So when we are making a speech, we try not to have slangs, and we speak in a proper language instead of a slang language. And we should have good body language. Maybe that requires another session altogether to demonstrate body language. Use of hands. I was talking about use of hands. You see, hands are an extension of your speech. Look at it like that. You can be very uncomfortable with your hands also, and you can be most comfortable with your hands. And a person who is comfortable with their hands appears to be more confident to the listeners. You see, the hand, because it extends so far away from your body, can actually take your voice a little further. And you've noticed what singers do? They do this with their hands, don't they? So when we are speaking, We can add meaning to our speech by the use of our hands properly. And if you notice, from now onwards, you notice how I use my hands. I always use my hands when I'm speaking. One of the best things that you can do is open palm gesture. Open palm gesture is a gesture of trust. So you can easily show your open palm to your audience, not like this, but you can just show it, and there is a trust which will be built between you and your audience. Okay? Practice. No speech comes without practice. I tell you, if you've heard a good speaker ever in your life, and you feel how spontaneous, how brilliant this person was, then I assure you that they have at least put in 2 hours of practice for 1 hour of delivery. So remember that. Nobody can speak effectively without having practiced. So practice. Practice in front of the mirror, practice in front of a recorder, record, and then listen to yourself. Have you ever heard yourself? You think you're a good speaker? Have you heard yourself? You hear what you speak from within. You never hear from outside. How are other people hearing you? For that, you need to record. So, record yourself. Go for a walk with those earplugs. Listen to yourself, and you will be able to find the flaws in your speech. I'm speaking too fast, I'm incoherent, I am unclear, I'm repeating, there is redundancy, there is entropy in what I'm saying. You will recognize all those things if you listen to yourself like other people listen to you. Through a recorder, record yourself and listen. Okay, and practice in front of the mirror. Why am I saying in front of the mirror? You will be able to observe your body language. You will be able to observe the use of hands. You will be able to observe the articulators, how you are using them. All those things you will be able to do. So practice. And if you find a good listener, that's the best thing. If there's somebody who's ready to listen to you, that's excellent. Make someone listen to you. Take care of your throat. You know, those who speak a lot, end up having something called as the speaker's throat. You know, we keep on doing things like that. So we have to be very alert about our throat. I'll tell you something. You want to be a runner, you exercise your legs, don't you? You want to be a bodybuilder, you exercise your shoulder muscles, your biceps, triceps, you do all those exercises. Then if you want to be a speaker, why don't you exercise your throat, your articulators, your tongue? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do breathing exercises? Because we believe that we can just go on talking. We can just go on speaking endlessly. We don't require any exercise in that area. That's not true. If you don't speak properly, if you don't use your breathing in sync with your speech, then you are going to lose your voice. So you have to be very careful about the exercises that you need to do. Okay? You see, the tongue is also a muscle. It's the strong muscle, but it's a muscle. And because it does maximum work when you're speaking, when I was showing you the articulators, you did realize that it's a tongue that's hitting, it's a tongue that's moving adroitly from one point to the other. The tongue has to keep on moving all the time as you speak. So because the tongue is doing so much work, it needs exercising also. One of the best exercises for tongues is trilling. Trilling is doing the trrrr sound. It's not easy, okay? Because I just demonstrated to you. It appears easy. Kids do it all the time. They take their little toy cars and they keep running around doing trrr, 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 trrr. But you try to do it, okay? Every day for 30 seconds only. Just do the trrr, trilling sound. It's called trilling, okay? So take care of your throat and your articulators. Speak slowly. Although I may be appearing to be speaking very fast, but 100 to 125 words per minute is a good speed to speak, okay? Because the other person also needs some time to understand what you are saying. So not just hear, but understand, remember? A good way to improve one's speaking skill is to practice on tongue twisters. Tongue twisters are an excellent exercise. The best exercise you have for speech, tongue twisters. I've got some tongue twisters on the slide here. You can see Betty bought a bit of butter, but the butter was so bitter. So she bought some better butter to make the bitter butter better. Now, all these as children we have done. But as we grow up, we stop using tongue twisters. So start practicing on them. The better you are at tongue twisters, the better you will be at easier phrases, easy speaking, right? Because this is very tough. Doing tongue twisters is very, very tough. 11 benevolent elephants. And the toughest one is this one. She sells seashells on the seashore, but the shells she sells are seashells for sure. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck would? In Hindi, you have in Punjabi, you have in all the languages that are there in India, you have tongue twisters. So go back home, think of the tongue twisters, and start practicing on them. That should help you to become a good speaker. Thank you.